Good evening and welcome to Washington. I'm Rich Edson in for Brett Baer. Breaking tonight, we are now less than 6 hours from the deadline to get a funding bill through Congress before the start of a partial government shutdown. But it appears that may be averted. House members apparently will pass the latest version of a stopgap measure. Let's get more on where things stand on Capitol Hill with senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram. Good evening, Chad.
Good evening, Rich. Well, right now this vote is on in the House of Representatives, and this vote is not final, but this bill is going to pass. They needed a minimum of 290 yeas. Right now they're up in the 360s, so this bill will in fact pass the House of Representatives. Now, the House wove together three bills into one: an interim spending bill to avoid a shutdown tonight, emergency money for farmers, and $110 billion in disaster aid. Listen.
Governing by continuing resolution, Mr. Speaker, is never ideal. The alternative, a government shutdown, would be devastating.
It's an interim spending bill. That means all old money is simply renewed. That's hard for the military since the Pentagon gets the most money spent by Congress.
Just pass the damn appropriations bills. CRs are terrible. And speaking as the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, they are devastating to the Defense Department. Over half the discretionary budget. They don't get to plan for the future.
Some Republicans privately mulled a government shutdown, but outgoing Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell argued against that tactic.
I don't care to count how many times I've reminded our colleagues and our House counterparts how harmful it is to shut the government down. When you try to use normal government function as a bargaining chip, you pay a political price.
Fiscal conservatives groused about unpaid money to respond to natural disasters like hurricanes in Florida and North Carolina.
Most estimates for North Carolina have been at $50 billion. Why are we doing $110 billion? I mean, maybe we could do $50 billion and ask again in a month or two whether it's being wisely spent or whether people are stealing the money from us. And so just larding out the money without doing any kind of conscious pay for it is a mistake.
The government funding episode underscores the headaches facing House Speaker Mike Johnson. He has a smaller majority next year.
I think the equivalent of what Mike Johnson has had to do over the last couple of weeks is like trying to eat a live porcupine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so he has eaten the porcupine.
The porcupine has been consumed.
Now, this vote is still open. It should be closed momentarily here, and we're waiting for the actual vote count. But this bill will pass the House of Representatives. It is then on to the Senate to sync up, perhaps later tonight. The deadline is midnight. Rich?
Chad, it looked like this bill got some pretty solid support from Democrats here. Democrats still control the Senate at least for another few weeks. Do we expect the same result over there in the Senate?
Anytime you see a vote of this caliber, that many yeas, it's probably going to get through the other chamber here. In fact, it's just a question of time. We wonder how long they will take, but probably you could see a vote of 70 or 80 yeas on this bill in the Senate later tonight.
Is this the kind of thing where one senator can hold up the whole thing and make this go for a few days, or this close to the holidays, we don't expect that one of the 100 would do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You could have that happen because, again, you have to get unanimous consent and agreement to step on the gas and get around all the Senate procedures. Anybody could do that and really drag this out and force a government shutdown at that stage. We haven't gotten any signals of that. I've been asking around all day. Earlier in the week, nobody could quite tell us what they were planning to do. But what happens around this time of year, especially just before the Christmas holidays, is people want to get out of the building and get home and trim the tree and bake the cookies or whatever. So that might kind of give impetus for people to vote for this bill tonight and get home.
Okay. Chad Pergram live for us on the